The new DLC for Age of Empires 4, Yufei's Legacy, is here with a brand new civilization and a whole new campaign story. Originated in Manchuria, the Jin Dynasty conquered the Liao and the Song, controlling most of northern China for more than a century. With new units, the lack of some, and some innovative mechanics, the Jin Dynasty arrives as a new challenge to master. Before getting into it, I want to thank Winston for the support, clarifying some of the historical inspirations behind the design choices of the Jin Dynasty that they so beautifully created for us. And I am sorry in advance for my Chinese pronunciation. Let's get started. The Jin Dynasty wasn't originally Chinese. It was founded actually by the Jurchen, Tungusic-speaking people that lived in Manchuria and lived in a semi-nomadic way. In the Empire of the Steppes, the Jurchen are described as barbarians that lived among pastures and herds. They had no walls, no streets, no alleys, and their ruler sat on a throne covered with tiger skins. You might actually want to remember this for later, by the way. The Jin Dynasty was founded by Pagoda, also known as Emperor Taizu. This man unified the Jurchen tribes and rebelled against the Liao dynasty that was ruling in the region. In 1115, he simply proclaimed himself emperor, and he allied himself with the Song dynasty, and together, the Song and the Jin, they brought the Liao dynasty down. And the dynasty's name, Jin, was chosen for a reason. Liao means iron, and Jin means gold. So in this way, he can show off that his dynasty is stronger and superior. But after the Liao were defeated in 1125, the Jin didn't see much use for the Song anymore, especially now that they were too weak to help, and they turned against them. In the winter of 1126-27, the Jin crossed the Yellow River, which is also a new biome in the game by the way, and captured Kaifeng. Kaifeng was the capital city of the Song at the time, and the imperial family was there, and much of it was just taken captive. This moment is known as the Jin Kang Incident and marks the fall of the Northern Song. In the new Yufei's Legacy campaign, you can experience these events yourself. After the Jin Kang incident in 1127 that ends up with the emperor captured, Yufei begins his career helping defend what remains of the Song dynasty. In the campaign, you can play through several episodes like escaping, retreating, defending positions, and even handling some internal conflicts and rebellions. In 1134, Yufei begins pushing back against the Jin, and you can play some of the big battles that stopped the Jin from advancing further into the Song and China. The Jurchens shared many traits with their neighbors, the Mongols. They were also expert horsemen who relied on pastures, horses, and hunting. And this lifestyle is reflected in their mounted villagers, a unique unit that shows their hybrid identity, nomadic roots combined with a settled empire. In the game, the mounted villagers are not your typical peasant. They gather, they build faster than other villagers, and they are so good that you can only make a limited amount of them. They also have very cute animations to mount and dismount when they are working and moving around. I just love them. Something else super cool that you might notice when playing the civilization is that along with the ship under your TC, you start with Reindeer. Yes, we have new animals in AoE 4. Reindeer are not really found in the Manchuria region, but instead they are distributed around the pole, down up to the Siberia region, where you can see an environment rich in taiga and subarctic forests. so they are distributed north of the Jin. But other Tungusic-speaking people in those areas, such as the Evenki, did use reindeer for transport, food, or clothing. I think this in the game represents how the Jurchens were connected with other peoples and were part of a broader trade sphere. And I say that because the civilization's traders also ride reindeer. And reindeer are way more efficient than horses in that snowy environment. The technology collective hunting, which is available already from the start in the town center, spawns reindeer under your TC, and it also symbolizes this relationship with other tribes. But what I can confirm to you is that the decision to have reindeer traders was deeply influenced by the fact that they just look cute. Another technology is Mohe ancestry, which replaces survival techniques and increases the gather rate from hunting. But with a twist, it has an extra level available in feudal age. The Mohe were an ancient people who lived in Manchuria and were predecessors of the Jurchens. They were also skilled hunters and really well adapted to this harsh northern climate. And once again, this reinforces the tribal roots of the Jin Dynasty. The geography of the Jin, with a lot of plains and mixed forests, supported a very strong horse-based culture. Horses require large grazing areas and access to pasture. Easy access to pasture. This is represented in the game with the Grasslands. You can build a grassland every time that you age up. Once a landmark is built, you get 3 possible locations where you can place your grasslands to breed new horses. Each grassland can hold up to a few horses in the field, and these horses can be used to produce cheaper cavalry units without production time, or they can be kept grazing in the field, which will provide a health bonus to cavalry units. Since we need a landmark to build a grassland, let's age up, shall we? To reach feudal age, you can either build the Great Pasture or the Flower Pagoda. The Great Pasture landmark is an extra grassland that you can have and also acts as a stable. According to the developers, the design of this landmark was heavily inspired by the King Ming scroll, an 800 years old long band of painted silk. The city depicted in the scroll is still unclear, but it's generally accepted that it is Kaifeng, the capital of the Northern Song. And during the invasion of the Jin into the Song territory, Kaifeng was occupied after being under siege twice. The fall of the Song capital marks an important event in China's history, and the beautiful King Ming scroll is a fantastic resource for artistic inspiration. And the other landmark, the Flower Pagoda, has an ability that creates a beautiful garden on a spot of your choice. The garden improves the gather rate of villagers in it and the attack speed of military units, apart from siege. There's a short cooldown, but you can plant your flowers on a new spot after a while and balance your economy according to what you need. This landmark is based on the Ganghui Temple Flower Pagoda. This pagoda is one of the 4 pagodas of Zhengding, a place that was really important during the time of the Jin for religious and administrative purposes. And this pagoda in particular looks more like a sculpture than a traditional pagoda, doesn't it? And it's called Flower Pagoda because of the decorative elements that resemble a bouquet of flowers. Now in feudal age, we get access to new units and technologies. One of the things you might notice about the civilization and complain about it is that it is very cavalry focused. And because of that, in the game, they don't have archers. They only have horse archers. Around 1195, the Jin army was one of the largest in the world at the time. Their military was organized through the Mouke system, which was a community, a network of communities that would mobilize in case of need, protecting their own area, their own region. In the game, this is represented by the Mouke bonus, which is also an unique type of emplacement for defensive structures. This emplacement rallies defenders when enemies are nearby. These defenders, however, they cannot be controlled by you, they act by themselves, and once the enemies are defeated or once they leave the area, these guys are going to return to where they came from, either a tower or a keep or a town center. I think this emplacement represents very nicely this concept of people simply defending their own lands, a strong idea of the Mouke system. Now that we understand their military system, let's take a look at their unique units. The Iron Pagoda is their knight, available already in Feudal Age. What is different about them is that they have splash damage, so they do damage in area. The Iron Pagoda was real. They were an elite cavalry force of the Jin, known for their extremely heavy armor, and they were among the most feared men in their army. Their name likely comes simply from their appearance. They look like layered in armor, just like an iron tower or just like a pagoda. However, to me, they look like Peteca. And if you don't know what Peteca is, I recommend you taking a look at it. Anyway, the Iron Pagoda, they were like cataphracts. Their main objective was to charge the enemy lines and formation and break through them to give space for the army to fight. And, trample some people on the way. Now, remember I said that the Jurchen leaders would sit on tiger skins? Well, take a closer look at this unit. Yup. Tiger skins were symbols of strength and elite status. So this sweet little detail reinforces the Iron Pagoda not just as a heavy cavalry, but as an elite force. I mentioned before that the Jin Dynasty doesn't have archers, only horse archers. And those are called Mohe Tribesmen. These horse archers, they're cheap, they're mobile, they seem to be very promising to cause havoc in your opponent's economy, especially in the early game. So here we can again see the connection of this civilization to the Mohe tribes to the north. Since this civilization has no archers, they have no need for archery range, right? Because of that, they have a single building for ranged and siege units, the Machine Workshop. From this workshop in Feudal, you can make rams and a new unique Springald unit, the Bad Crossbow. This siege unit, just like other Springalds, fires bolts that pierce multiple units, but bursts of them. The Bad Crossbow was real, and it was so big, it required an entire crew to be operated. The thing is, big siege engines like that wouldn't be firing multiple bolts, only a single very powerful bolt. So this is a gameplay decision for the sake of fun and style. In Castle Age, we find more unique units and more new technologies. One of the landmarks you can build to go to the Castle Age is the Dragon Pavilion. This landmark grants free Meng'an emplacements to town centers and also already comes with it. And besides that, you can produce emissaries from it, but you can only have a limited amount of them. And they come with two abilities. The bribe ability is a type of Wololo, but instead of converting the units to your side, they simply go mad. They don't want to be part of anything and they attack anyone nearby. The other ability is called Established Tributary, and it can be used on neutral trade posts to produce food from local farmers, increase gold income from traders, and increase the limit of mounted villagers that you can produce. Emissaries were like official envoys of the Jin Dynasty. They represented the government and were sent around to negotiate and find friends, trade partners, for example. And the tributary system is historically accurate. It actually existed. The emissaries were sent to neighbors to arrange trade agreements, for example, exclusivity with certain resources or special prices for the trade between them, and so on. So this would explain the bonuses for trade, for example, around the neutral trade market once you send your emissaries over there. However, you don't have to make emissaries only from this landmark. You do get them cheaper, as I mentioned, but you can also make now in Castle Age from the town center. This landmark is based on the Dragon Pavilion located in Kaifeng. A pavilion is a place where events would take place, including expositions and ceremonies. This pavilion in particular was once part of a huge palace complex, which unfortunately doesn't exist anymore. And the other landmark that you can build to reach Castle Age is the Mountain Hall. This landmark acts as a monastery and makes monasteries cheaper to build. This landmark also introduces a new mechanic involving karma. Resources gathered near monasteries provide karma, and losing units decreases karma. Once karma reaches its maximum amount, you receive a blessing from the 4 heavenly kings, providing several economic and military bonuses. Karma is a spiritual concept that basically means your actions have consequences. If you do good things are gonna come back to you, and if you do bad things, they will also come back to you. And just like that, in the game, being peaceful and collecting your berries and taking care of your sheep, all these little economical things are going to give you more karma. But if you are being naughty and causing war and getting people killed, you're going to lose karma, because that's bad karma. So there's less chance that you're gonna get blessed. This landmark is based on the Shanhua Temple located in Datong. Founded in the early 8th century, this temple was heavily damaged when the Jin took over and was rebuilt and repaired over the years. The main hall of this temple is one of the largest of its kind in China, but what is most relevant to us here is the main gate, which was built during the Jin Dynasty, and its hall contains the statues of the 4 heavenly kings, the guys that offer you their blessings in the game. These 4 kings are guardians in Buddhism, believed to protect the world from evil. Now in Castle Age, you have access to the Bad Crossbow and Mouke emplacements. Nest of Bees also become available, but with a spicy technology for it. The Porcupine Defense. This technology gives your Nest of Bees defensive lances against melee attackers. And another type of emplacement available for keeps is the Rain of Fire, which provides a grenade attack dealing explosive damage. And finally, Storm Lances, a technology available in the barracks, gives your spearmen gunpowder tubes for their lances, and that grants them with an explosive ranged attack. Yep, spears now can deal ranged damage. But thankfully, there's a cooldown. And finally, let's check the landmarks to go to the Imperial Age. You can go with the Great Wall Bastion, a very angry keep that comes with 4 mounted bad crossbows. And it also makes these crossbows stronger. You can also add all the other emplacements that we have talked about and research Flying Fire Battalions, which adds mounted grenadiers to the Mouke defenders. This landmark represents the contribution of the Jin Dynasty to the Great Wall. They constructed sections of frontier wall, trenches and ditches, and they would protect them, also making more towers, watchtowers, outposts, and so on. So they reinforced the entire fortification of the frontier. And they did all that to protect their newly conquered lands from, you guessed it, the Mongols. A bastion is a strong projecting structure in a fortification. In a way, this landmark is something like the gatehouse landmark from the Chinese, but with new visuals and new functionalities. There are still remains of the Great Wall section built during the Jin Dynasty that shows us today their general shape, for example, which, along with the gatehouse of Kaifeng, served as inspiration for this landmark's design. The gate was reconstructed after the original from the 12th century according to its depiction in the King Ming scroll. The other landmark you can go for is the Pagoda Forest. This landmark spawns small pagoda forests nearby which generate wood and slow enemy units down. You also get access to the Spiritual Awakening ability, which initiates a conversion in cascading rings around the landmark. And garrisoning monks in the landmark increases the size of this conversion area. This landmark is based on the ancient forest pagoda. This isn't a well-documented landmark, but it likely represents a regional Buddhist site in the northern frontier. I would say that it reflects the spread of religion even into remote and contested areas under the Jin rule. A new unit available in Imperial Age is the Zhanma Swordsman, a type of man-at-arms equipped with a big two-handed sword called Zhanma Dao, meaning literally horse-chopping sword. And they do actually have bonus damage versus cavalry. And do you see this red cape that they wear in the game? Well, the Jin Dynasty created units called the Loyal and Filial Armies, and they were made up of deserters, captives, and soldiers from all across Eurasia. These troops, however, they were highly aggressive, often undisciplined, and they were used as a vanguard shock force. Some sources refer to them as red coats, possibly because of their clothing or their origins, and that's what inspired the unit that we see in the game. The last unit I want to talk about is the Eruptor. This is a gunpowder infantry that replaces the hand cannoneers. Their single target damage is very high, and a shot causes an explosion with smoke, fire, and everything. During the time of the Jin Dynasty, China was leading in the usage of early gunpowder warfare. Both the Jin and the Song, for example, used early proto-guns and spears with gunpowder tubes that we have in the game. But true hand cannons, they appear only after the fall of the Jin Dynasty in the late 13th century during the Yuan Dynasty. In the Ming Guide of Firearms, we do see mentions of the Eruptor, but that was written almost 100 years after the Jin. Before that, what was common for the Jin was the usage of grenades, explosives, fire, things that can be noticed easily in the civilization with their emplacements like the Rain of Fire that we saw before, and the Flying Fire battalions, available now in Imperial Age, which adds a mounted grenadier to the defender's emplacement. The Eruptors also benefit from a new exclusive technology available in the university, only for the Jin, called Heaven Shaking Thunder. This upgrade makes the Eruptors and the Spearman Storm Lancers very noisy and scary for enemy cavalry, reducing their damage. In a way, your Eruptors and your Spearmen now, they have a camo unease aura. But wait, do you want more explosion? I got you covered. The Pilipao technology from the workshop grants smoke bombs to traps and nests of bees that smoke out defensive structures, reducing these buildings' damage. The Pilipao bombs were also called thunderclap bombs, and they were actually used by the Song to protect themselves, to defend themselves during the Jin invasion. According to Haikyufu, these bombs were made out of paper and filled with lime and sulfur. On hit, they would make this very loud noise and scare everyone around them, and the sulfur would just burst into flame. In summary, both the Heaven Shaking Thunder and the Pilipao refer to the same grenade used during the Jin Song conflict, but the technologies, they focus on different effects of this bomb. In the end, the Jin Dynasty had to face another type of enemy from the steppes, the Mongols. The Mongols once were divided and controlled by the Jin, but once they were unified under Genghis Khan, they rose from the steppes, seeking revenge, power, and opportunity. These masters of mobility and cavalry warfare, they simply pushed through Jin's defenses, and by 1234, the dynasty had fallen. That's a good reminder that the Mongols were not the best neighbors back then, were they? But that's all I have for you guys today. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to get the DLC yourself and have fun. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. Don't forget to subscribe. And I see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.